Lieutenant First Class Zextal slouched in his monitoring chair aboard the Zegzereth scout vessel Dawn Hunter, his secondary eyes half closed while his primary set remained fixed on the sensor displays. Another routine patrol along the Empire's borders, another shift of staring at empty space. His thin fingers absently tapped against the crystalline control surface, creating soft chimes that echoed through the quiet bridge. The sensor array's sudden shriek jolted him upright, all four eyes snapping wide open. A ship had appeared where nothing existed moments before, its energy signature unlike anything in the Asterisk, Dawn Hunter's Asterisk extensive database. The vessel's design defied Zegzereth aesthetics. No sweeping curves or crystalline lattices, just clean lines and strange geometric patterns that seemed to shift when viewed directly. Unknown vessel detected in Sector 7, Zextal announced, his voice cracking with excitement. Finally, something interesting. Configuration: unclear. Size approximately 1/4 of Asterisk Dawn Hunter Asterisk. No node match in Imperial records. Captain Vexmore strode to the sensor station, her ceremonial armor crystals chiming with each step. Classification: unable to determine, Captain. Their power signature is strange. It's there, but it's like trying to hold water with a crystal net. Zextal's fingers danced across the controls, trying to get a better reading. Follow standard protocol, Vexmore ordered, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of Zegzereth military tradition. Fire warning shots. Pattern 3. Show them they face the might of the Empire. The Dawn Hunter's weapon crystals hummed to life, releasing 3 precise bursts of energy that would pass exactly 2.3 meters from the unknown vessel's hull, close enough to demonstrate power, far enough to avoid diplomatic incidents. It was a dance the Zegzereth had performed countless times, one that usually sent unknown ships fleeing back into the darkness. This ship didn't flee. Instead, the bridge speakers came alive with a voice speaking perfect High Zereth, its tones carrying the precise musical inflections of Imperial court language. Your shots missed by exactly 2.3 meters. Interesting choice of distance. The cultural significance of that number in Zegzereth military history is quite fascinating, particularly its connection to the Third Emperor's famous mercy during the Crystal Cave Rebellion. The bridge crew froze. How did these aliens know about that? The Crystal Cave Rebellion was ancient history, taught only in advanced military academies. We've analyzed the crystalline resonance patterns of your warning shots. The voice continued, now carrying a warmth that seemed genuinely friendly. The harmonic overtones suggest your weapon crystals were grown in the 7th lattice chamber of the Imperial Forge. Beautiful craftsmanship, though you might consider adjusting the second crystal's alignment by 0.03 degrees for better energy efficiency. Captain Vexmore's face shifted to the pale blue of shocked disbelief. The location of crystal forge chambers was classified at the highest levels, yet these aliens had casually decoded that information from 3 warning shots. I believe introductions are in order, the voice continued. This is the Earth Trade Vessel Asterisk, Gentle Breeze Asterisk. I'm Captain Sarah Chen. We've spent several years studying your remarkable civilization and believe we could establish a mutually beneficial trade relationship. Now, shall we discuss that agreement? Or would you prefer another demonstration of our attention to detail? The command crystal in Vexmore's hand chimed with an incoming priority message from Imperial Command. The report made her scales ripple with shock. Similar unknown vessels had appeared at 7 other border stations, each one demonstrating intimate knowledge of Zegzereth culture and technology. They hadn't just encountered an alien ship, they'd encountered a species that had already learned more about them than most Zerath knew about themselves. Vexmore had a disturbing thought. If these humans knew so much while remaining undetected, what else were they capable of? Captain Sarah Chen savored the aroma of her jasmine tea as she watched the Zegzereth crew's reactions through her ship's quantum imaging system. The Asterisk Gentle Breeze Asterisk might look like a small trade vessel, but its sensors could pick up the subtle color changes in Zegzereth scales that betrayed their every emotion. Right now, The command crew of the Dawn Hunter was cycling through various shades of confusion, awe, and uncertainty. They're accessing their secured channels. Captain, Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez reported from her communication station, her augmented eyes processing streams of encrypted data. Their quantum encryption is adorable. It's like they're using crystal abacuses to do quantum mathematics. Chen smiled but kept her tone professional. Remember our briefing, Lieutenant. The Zerath developed their technology along completely different lines than humanity. They achieved quantum computing through crystal resonance, while we were still playing with silicon chips. Different path, same destination. The bridge crew maintained their positions with practiced ease, each one monitoring their stations while the ship's AI continued its deep analysis of Zerath communication patterns. The warning shots had been a goldmine of information. Each crystal-powered energy burst carried echo patterns of every ship it had ever been in contact with, essentially giving humans access to a vast network of Zerath fleet movements. Dr. Watson, Chen called to her xenoanthropologist. What's your read on their captain? Dr. Emma Watson looked up from her holographic display, her eyes gleaming with excitement. Fascinating response patterns, Captain. Vexmore comes from the northern crystal cities. You can tell by the way her scales ripple in asymmetric patterns. She's young for a captain, probably promoted quickly during their recent military modernization program. That makes her more likely to adapt to unexpected situations. Perfect. Chen nodded, taking another sip of her tea. That's exactly why we chose this patrol route. The Zerath are about to face something completely outside their experience. They'll need officers who can think beyond traditional responses. The Gentle Breeze's AI projected a tactical overlay showing the positions of 11 other human ships, all cloaked and waiting quietly in nearby space. They weren't there for combat. Each vessel was precisely positioned to create a complex geometric pattern that would be culturally significant to the Zerath once revealed. Signal from Imperial Command incoming to the Dawn Hunter, Rodriguez announced. This is clever. They're ordering reinforcements while trying to make it look like routine patrol movements. The crystal harmonics in their transmission suggest at least 3 heavy cruisers are being diverted to our location. Chen's smile widened slightly. Right on schedule. Humans aren't the only ones who've learned to read crystal harmonics. Send the predetermined signal to our fleet. It's time for Phase 2. Dr. Watson, prepare your cultural presentation. Lieutenant Rodriguez, begin decrypting their next set of orders before they receive them. Let's show them how humans negotiate when we know every card in their hand, but choose to play an open game anyway. The bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, each movement precisely calculated to advance their intricate plan. They weren't just making first contact, they were orchestrating a carefully choreographed dance of diplomacy, technology, and cultural understanding that had been years in the making. A soft chime indicated an incoming transmission from the Dawn Hunter *. Captain Vexmore's image appeared on the main screen, her scales now showing the deep blue of formal diplomatic communication. Chen straightened in her chair, allowing her posture to mirror the Zerath captain's formal bearing. Captain Chen, Vexmore began, her translator struggling to match the complexity of human expressions. Perhaps we should discuss how your vessel came to know so much about our people. Of course, Captain Vexmore, Chen replied warmly. But first, would you like to know why we chose this exact location for our meeting? The crystal formations in this sector's asteroids create some fascinating resonance patterns. Patterns that might remind you of your grandmother's favorite musical composition, the one she played for you the day you entered the Imperial Academy. Grand Admiral Kexar watched the tactical display aboard his flagship Crystal Dominance as his battle fleet emerged from hyperspace in the legendary Spear of Light formation. 37 warships arranged in a 3-dimensional pyramid, their crystalline hulls catching starlight in ways that had struck terror into countless species across known space. The formation was both beautiful and lethal, perfected over centuries of Zerath military evolution. Display status of the unknown vessel, he commanded, his ceremonial armor singing with each movement. The small human ship appeared on his screen, still sitting exactly where it had been, making no attempt to flee or assume a defensive posture. "My admiral," his tactical officer reported, scales shifting to a puzzled green. "They're broadcasting a surrender message." "No, sir. They're transmitting a complete analysis of our fleet formation, including," the officer's scales paled, "including 3 suggested improvements for energy efficiency and tactical response time." Kexar's primary eyes narrowed. "Show me." The tactical display shifted, highlighting subtle flaws in their formation that thousands of years of Ziggurat military doctrine had missed. If 3 ships adjusted their position by mere kilometers, and 5 others modified their crystal resonance frequencies by a fraction, their formation's effectiveness would increase by 40%. "It gets worse, Admiral," his science officer added, her scales rippling with agitation. "Their analysis includes references to classified theoretical work from the Imperial Military Academy, research that wasn't even complete yet." The human vessel's captain appeared on their main screen, her alien features set in what their cultural databases identified as a pleasant smile. "Grand Admiral Kexar," she said, her command of High Zirath still impeccable, "your fleet's arrival is perfectly timed. We were just discussing the historical significance of this sector with Captain Vexmore. Did you know this is where the Third Emperor first conceived the Crystal Harmony Protocol?" Kexar felt his scales shift involuntarily to shocked white. The Crystal Harmony Protocol was the Empire's most closely guarded military secret, a theoretical approach to fleet coordination that even their best quantum crystals couldn't fully calculate. "Of course," Captain Chen continued, her tone conversational, "the original protocol had a few mathematical errors that limited its potential. We took the liberty of solving them. Would you like to see our work? Your theoretical physics division might find it interesting." The science officer's console chimed. "Admiral, they're transmitting technical documents. The equations, they're beautiful. They've solved computational problems our best crystal matrices have been working on for decades." "Sir," the tactical officer's scales flashed urgent purple, multiple anomalies detected in nearby space. Kexar braced himself for an ambush, but instead of weapon signatures, his tactical display filled with a cascade of harmonic resonance patterns. The humans hadn't just understood Ziggurat technology. They'd mastered it, created their own versions, and improved upon it in ways that should have been impossible. "Don't be alarmed, Admiral." Chen's voice carried a note of gentle amusement. "Those are just some quantum echoes from our observation posts. We've been studying how your crystal technology interacts with local spacetime. Fascinating stuff, really. Your ancestors were brilliant to discover the quantum properties of crystalline structures, though I suspect they never imagined their work would lead to this moment." The tactical officer's voice dropped to a whisper. "Admiral, according to these readings, we're not just dealing with one human ship. There are patterns in space around us. They've turned this entire sector into some kind of vast crystal computer, but we can barely detect it. How long have they been watching? How long have they been learning?" Kexar studied the human captain's unwavering smile and made a decision that would change the course of Ziggurat history. "Captain Chen," he said carefully, "I believe it's time we had a serious discussion about the future of our species' relationship." The space around the Ziggurat battle fleet shimmered like sunlight on crystal waters. One by one, human ships materialized in perfect geometric formation, each vessel precisely positioned to create an intricate pattern that made the Ziggurat tactical officers gasp in recognition. "Impossible," whispered Science Officer Mexley, her scales shifting through shades of awe. "They've arranged themselves in the pattern of eternal harmony, a theoretical formation from our ancient texts. Our finest military minds claimed it could never be achieved in real space." Aboard the Gentle Breeze, Captain Chen watched the Ziggurat command staff's reactions with quiet satisfaction. "Dr. Watson, would you say they appreciate the cultural significance?" The xenanthropologist nodded, her augmented eyes processing the subtle color changes in the Ziggurat officers' scales. Their emotional responses suggest deep cultural recognition. The pattern of eternal harmony isn't just a military formation to them. It's a philosophical concept, a representation of perfect balance between power and peace. Lieutenant Rodriguez's hands danced across her console, coordinating the movements of the human fleet through quantum-entangled communications. Each ship adjusted its position with microscopic precision, their movements synchronized through crystal-based technology that the Zireth had thought impossible to perfect. "Signal from the crystal dominance," Rodriguez reported. "They're attempting to analyze our fleet composition. Their sensors are having trouble classifying our ships. The quantum crystalline hulls are confusing their traditional scanning methods." Chen smiled. "Let's help them out. Transmit the full specifications of our hull technology, focusing on how we adapted their crystal resonance principles. Show them we're not just copying their work. We're building on it, creating something new through the merger of human and Ziggurat engineering." The tactical display showed the Ziggurat fleet's formation subtly shifting, unconsciously mirroring the harmony pattern of the human ships. It wasn't a retreat or an advance. It was an instinctive response to seeing their own cultural ideals reflected back at them in an impossibly perfect form. "Captain," Dr. Watson's voice carried an edge of excitement. "Grand Admiral Kexar's scale patterns indicate he's reaching a critical realization. I believe he's finally understanding the full scope of what we've achieved." On the main screen, Kexar's image appeared, his scales now showing the deep gold of profound respect. "Captain Chen, you've positioned your fleet in a formation that our philosophers have dreamed of for millennia. But more than that, you've solved the quantum resonance problems that made it impossible." "How?" "Simple appreciation for your culture, Admiral," Chen replied, rising from her chair. "Humans don't just study other species. We learn from them. Every ship in our fleet carries crystals grown using techniques we learned from your ancient texts, combined with our own quantum engineering. Each vessel is both human and Ziggurat in design, just as this formation is both a display of power and an offering of peace." The gentle breeze's sensors detected increased activity in the Ziggurat fleet's communication networks as the implications sank in. The humans hadn't just matched Ziggurat technology. They'd fulfilled its ultimate potential. "But this is just the beginning," Chen continued, gesturing to the space around them. "Look closer at the pattern we've created. It's not just the pattern of eternal harmony. It's also a key. Each ship's position corresponds to a quantum frequency. Together, they form something your sensors should be detecting right about now." As if on cue, the space between the fleets began to shimmer with complex crystalline structures, invisible until this moment. The humans hadn't just brought a fleet. They turned the very fabric of space into a vast crystal computer, one that operated on principles the Ziggurat had theorized, but never achieved. Every screen aboard the Crystal Dominance came alive with streams of data as the human fleet began their transmission. Grand Admiral Kexar watched in stunned silence as information cascaded through their systems. Star charts showing safer hyperspace routes through Ziggurat space, engineering specifications that could revolutionize their crystal technology, and medical data that addressed genetic issues their species had struggled with for generations. "Sir," Mexley's voice trembled as she processed the incoming data. "They're not just showing us theoretical improvements. They've already tested everything. These hyperspace routes, they've mapped quantum eddies we never knew existed. The engineering specs, they've run simulations accounting for crystal decay rates over 1,000-year periods." On a secondary screen, Captain Chen's image maintained its calm presence. "We've spent years studying your civilization, Admiral, not to exploit weaknesses, but to find ways we could help. Your species pioneered crystal quantum technology, while humans were still learning to make steel. We believe combining our approaches could benefit both our peoples." The tactical officer's scales shifted to a deep purple of confusion. "Admiral, I'm detecting quantum signatures from their fleet that suggest..." He paused, double-checking his readings. That suggests they've been operating in our space for at least 7 years, gathering data, running experiments, testing improvements to our technology. 8 years, actually, Chen corrected gently. We needed to be thorough. The genetic treatment protocols we're sharing, for example, we've already synthesized and tested them. They're ready for immediate implementation. We estimate they could reduce genetic degradation in your crystal cities by 94%. Kexar's secondary eyes widened as he processed the implications. You've had the power to destabilize our entire empire for nearly a decade. Instead, you've spent that time helping us. Admiral. Dr. Watson's voice joined the conversation, her human features displaying what the Ziggurat now recognized as sincere enthusiasm. Your civilization's achievements are remarkable. The way you've integrated crystal technology into every aspect of your society is beautiful. We don't want to change that. We want to help it reach its full potential. The Crystal Dominance's quantum crystal core hummed as it processed another wave of data. This time, the screens showed detailed plans for improving their fleet's energy efficiency, agricultural techniques for growing larger crystal formations, and educational materials that could help young Zirith better understand their own technology. The crystal core, Mexley gasped, her scales flickering with excitement. It's operating 40% more efficiently just from implementing their basic suggestions. How did they even know its resonance patterns? Chen's smile widened slightly. We've been listening to your crystals, Science Officer Mexley. Every crystal tells a story of its growth, its usage, its potential. Your entire civilization sings in quantum harmonies. We've spent years learning to understand that song. A junior officer rushed to Kexar's position, holding a quantum tablet. Admiral, we've confirmed their medical data. The genetic treatments they're offering. My sister's in the Crystal City Medical Center with degradation syndrome. These protocols could save her life. Save thousands of lives. Kexar studied the human captain carefully, his scales shifting to the deep blue of formal diplomatic engagement. Captain Chen, I must ask, why reveal all this now? Why not continue your observations? Because, Admiral, Chen replied, her voice carrying warmth that transcended species differences. The galaxy is changing. There are challenges coming that neither of our species should face alone. We believe it's time for humans and Ziggurat to write the next chapter of cosmic history together. The perfect harmony of the combined fleets shattered as human ships suddenly burst into motion. Grand Admiral Kexar's combat instincts flared, but before he could issue orders, his tactical display transformed. The human vessels weren't attacking. They were creating a complex, interwoven energy field that enveloped the entire Ziggurat fleet. Multiple hostile signatures detected. His tactical officer shouted, scales flashing urgent warning colors. Pirate vessels decloaking off our stern quarter. Through the crystalline viewports of the Crystal Dominance, Kexar watched as energy beams from previously hidden pirate ships splashed harmlessly against the human-generated barrier. The attacks, which should have devastated his fleet's rear guard, dissipated into carefully controlled quantum cascades. Interesting timing. Captain Chen's voice carried a note of satisfied amusement. The Scarlet Blade pirates have been planning this ambush for weeks. We've been tracking them since they started positioning their ships. Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice joined the channel. Captain, the pirates are attempting to remodulate their weapons to pierce the barrier. Should we demonstrate the adaptive harmonics? Proceed, Lieutenant. Admiral Kexar might appreciate seeing how we've improved upon his ancestors' quantum shielding theories. The energy barrier surrounding the Ziggurat fleet shifted, its crystalline patterns evolving in real time. Each pirate shot was not just blocked but absorbed, its energy redirected to strengthen the shield further. The pirates' weapons, designed to shatter crystal-based defenses, were actually making the protection stronger. Impossible, Mexley whispered, her scales showing patterns of scientific awe. They're using the Fourth Emperor's resonance theory, but they've solved the cascade failure problem that killed him. The barrier isn't just stopping attacks, it's learning from them. On the tactical display, more human ships decloaked behind the pirate fleet. They weren't firing weapons. Instead, they created a second barrier, trapping the pirates between two fields of impenetrable quantum energy. "We have a message from the pirate flagship," Rodriguez reported. Their captain sounds confused. Apparently, they've never had someone protect their intended targets before. Chen's image appeared on the main screen, still radiating calm authority. "Admiral, we'd like to offer a suggestion. The Scarlet Blade pirates have acquired some interesting modifications to their quantum drives. Instead of destroying their ships, we could help you capture them. Their technology, combined with the improvements we've already shared, could advance your fleet's capabilities by several decades." Kexar studied the tactical situation with all four eyes. The humans had not only protected his fleet from a devastating ambush, but had turned it into an opportunity for advancement. "You knew about this attack all along," he said, his scales shifting to show thoughtful understanding. "You arranged our entire meeting to coincide with it." "Of course," Chen nodded. "What better way to demonstrate our intentions than to protect you from a threat you didn't even know existed?" The pirates expected to find a vulnerable fleet focused on an unknown contact. Instead, they found two civilizations working together. The science officer's console chimed with new data. "Admiral, I'm detecting quantum signatures from the human barrier. They're not just protecting us. They're actively repairing microfractures in our crystal hulls that we didn't even know about. Their shield technology is actually improving our ships while defending them." A junior communications officer rushed forward. "Sir, we're receiving transmissions from 7 other Zegzereth border stations. Human ships appeared at each one, just like here. They've all been quietly protecting our patrols from various threats for months. We just never noticed." Kexar's scales settled into the gold-blue pattern of profound respect. "Captain Chen, I believe it's time we discussed that trade agreement. But first, perhaps you could tell us what other threats you've been shielding us from." The holographic display aboard the Crystal Dominance transformed into a vast three-dimensional map of the sector. Hundreds of lines connected different star systems, each pulsing with different colors representing trade routes, diplomatic relations, and cultural exchanges. At the center of this complex web sat Zegzereth space, connected to everything yet previously unaware of most of these interactions. "As you can see, Admiral," Captain Chen gestured to the intricate network, "we've been quite busy. Every one of these lines represents a relationship we've cultivated over the past 8 years. Trade agreements, cultural exchanges, technological partnerships, all designed to create a stable, prosperous sector with the Zegzereth Empire at its heart." Mexley's scales flickered with amazement as she processed the data. These trade routes, they all complement each other. If any species tried to disrupt one connection, they'd damage their own interests through a dozen others. It's like a quantum resonance pattern, but with economics and politics instead of energy. "Precisely." Dr. Watson smiled, her hologram joining Chen's. "We modeled it after your crystal lattice structures. Each connection strengthens the others, creating a self-supporting network of mutual benefit. We call it the crystalline concordat." The display zoomed in on a particular cluster of systems. This region, Chen pointed, was particularly challenging. 3 different species there had historical conflicts with the Empire. We spent 2 years mediating their disputes, finding common ground, and establishing trade relationships that made conflict economically unfeasible. Kexar's tactical officer interrupted, his scales showing urgent realization. "Admiral, she's right. Remember the Nexer incident last year, when the Meridian Alliance unexpectedly backed down from their territorial claims? According to these records, the humans had already established 6 different trade routes that would have collapsed if conflict broke out. The Meridians make excellent trading partners once you understand their cultural priorities," Chen explained. "They just needed the right incentives to look past historical grievances. Now they're one of the strongest advocates for peace in the sector." A new series of data streams appeared, showing economic projections, technological development curves, and cultural exchange metrics. The Zexirith Empire's potential growth under this new network was staggering. Your civilization's crystal technology is unique in known space, Chen continued. But its true potential can only be realized through peaceful exchange and development. We've spent years preparing the ground for you to take your rightful place as a cornerstone of interstellar civilization. Mexley gasped as she decoded another layer of data. Admiral, look at these technological exchange patterns. They've arranged it so that advances in our crystal technology would naturally flow out through the network, while innovations from other species flow back to us. They've turned the entire sector into a vast research and development cooperative. And that's just the beginning. Chen's smile widened. Wait until you see the educational exchange programs we've prepared. There are already 12,000 students from various species studying crystal engineering, just waiting for the opportunity to learn directly from Zexirith masters. The crystal dominance's quantum core hummed as it processed the implications. According to every simulation it could run, the humans had engineered a situation where peace was not just preferable, it was overwhelmingly profitable for everyone involved. You haven't just been studying us, Kexar said slowly, his scale showing the deep purple of epiphany. You've been building a future for us, one where the Zexirith Empire becomes not a military power, but a cultural and technological cornerstone of an entire sector. Exactly, Admiral. Chen nodded. Now shall we discuss how to make that future a reality? Your empire's next golden age is waiting to begin. 1 month later, space above the Zexirith homeworld sparkled with the combined light of 200 ships arranged in an impossibly complex formation. Human vessels moved in perfect synchronization with Zexirith cruisers, their hybrid crystal quantum drives humming in harmony. This wasn't a military exercise. It was the premier performance of what would become known as the Crystal Star Dance. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the newly christened Eternal Harmony, a ship that represented the first true collaboration between human and Zexirith engineers. Beside her, Grand Admiral Kexar watched as their combined fleet began the intricate maneuvers that would demonstrate both species' greatest strengths. Your idea to transform our military formations into an art form was brilliant, Kexar admitted, his scales shimmering with pride and excitement. The tickets for today's performance sold out across 12 star systems. The best solutions often come from unexpected directions. Chen smiled as the first movement began. Human ships wove between Zexirith cruisers in spiraling patterns that echoed ancient crystal growth formations. Though I must credit your young Lieutenant Zextol for suggesting we incorporate classical Zexirith music into the quantum field harmonics. Above them, the crystal dominance led a squadron through a series of precisely calculated maneuvers, their crystal hulls resonating with frequencies that created visible waves of light between the ships. The humans had helped perfect this technique, turning what was once a military communication system into a medium for stellar art. Report from the Academy, Dr. Watson's voice came through the quantum link. The first joint class of human and Zexirith crystal engineers just solved the three-phase resonance problem. Apparently, having both species' perspectives made the solution obvious to the students. The observation deck's displays showed audiences across the sector watching in awe. Species that had once viewed the Zexirith with fear now saw beauty in their crystal technology. The same formations that had been developed for war now created patterns of light and energy that brought tears to eyes of all shapes and colors. Security update. Lieutenant Rodriguez added from her new position aboard the Asterisk Crystal Dominance Asterisk. The Scarlet Blade Pirates' modified quantum drives have been successfully integrated into the new joint patrol vessels. Their former captain is surprisingly enthusiastic about her new role as a technical advisor. The dance reached its crescendo as both fleets executed the impossible, a real-time demonstration of the pattern of eternal harmony, but now enhanced with human innovations. The ships moved in geometric perfection, their crystal resonances combining to create a quantum-like show visible from 3 systems away. A young Zexirith ensign rushed onto the observation deck, her scales bright with excitement. "Admiral, the quantum harmonics from the performance. They're having an unexpected effect. The crystal growths in the city below. They're responding to the frequencies. They're growing in new patterns." Chen and Kexar shared a knowing look. This unexpected effect had been carefully calculated, part of the human plan to help Zirath crystal cities evolve into even more efficient and beautiful forms. "You know," Kexar mused, watching the spectacular display above, "when we first detected your ship, we thought we were facing a potential enemy. Instead, you showed us how to transform our military might into something greater." "That's the thing about humans," Chen replied, as the final movement began. "We don't just seek to win conflicts. We try to make them unnecessary. Why fight when you can dance? Why conquer when you can create?" The performance ended with a new formation, one that had never been seen before. Human and Zirath ships intertwined in a pattern that represented both species' symbols for hope. As the quantum light show faded, Kexar's youngest daughter tugged at his ceremonial armor. "Father," she asked, her scales showing pure wonder, "is it true that we once thought humans were dangerous?" Kexar lifted her up to see the combined fleet better. "They are dangerous, little one. They're dangerous because they taught us that peace can be more powerful than war, that art can be stronger than weapons, and that the most important victories are the ones where everyone wins."